Hi everyone, my name is Grimace. You're watching The Bespoke Woodsman. On this channel I talk about hiking, backpacking gear. If those kinds of things interest you, please click subscribe. Click the notification bell so you can find out every time I put out a video. One thing I wanted to talk about, if you didn't watch my trip video from Trans-Catalina Trail, I'm going to put it in the description and then also put a card up top. So watch that and then come back, because what I'm going to talk about this week is kind of what went right, what went wrong, lessons learned, etc. So this was kind of my big end of the year trip. And I hadn't done anything sort of on this scale in a while. In fact, I've never really gotten on a boat or a plane and gone backpacking and then come back. So it's kind of a new experience in that way. Usually I get in a car and I drive an hour to 5 hours and I'm at the trailhead. So this was sort of a lesson in that also, but I want to talk about things that went right, things that went wrong, and then things that I can improve. One thing that I thought went really right was my planning, was getting to the island, getting back from the island, knowing where I was going to stay, planning my mileage, planning my food. I really thought that I had a very tight, manageable plan. I had my base weight was down to about 12 pounds, a little under actually. I was prepared. I had everything I needed. But you know, I really felt like my planning was probably the best of any trip I've ever had. It's still something I'm learning. I haven't put in my 10,000 hours yet. I'm still getting all of that sort of under my feet, but I felt really strong about what I did. One of the other things I thought worked really well was my gear. I know during the trip I thought that my tent had failed. I actually don't think that's the case. I think what it boiled down to was campsite selection. When I first got to camp, I was supposed to have Camp 7. There was one group already there, and they were, wouldn't you know it, they were in Camp 7. So I was a little frazzled. I was kind of like looking for a spot, and I went over to campsite 9. I set up kind of in a hurry because I didn't know how long the rain was going to have stopped. I just think I rushed things, and because I live in Southern California, where it's very forgiving as far as like tent site selection, I just don't think that I chose a good leave no trace site, but I don't think I chose the best campsite. So that's something that I think can be improved, but the gear, on the other hand, I thought did really well. I thought that the tent held up well. That said, I've got a new tent already. I got a Tarp Tent Pro Trail. I took advantage of Black Friday and got some really good deals. I also thought my pack did really well. Again, I've got a new pack. I got a Mountain Laurel Designs Burn 40. We'll talk about that later. That's a dynamic composite fabric pack. We'll get into that in a subsequent video. But my pack held up really well. My ULA pack held up really well. You know, everything really was geared up, was fit super well. I think I had a really tight, compact kit, and it covered all of my needs. One other thing that I thought did really well was my Outdoor Research Helium 2 jacket. I got into it a little late. I waited a little too late after it started raining. But once it was on, it did its job magnificently. It kept me dry. I didn't have any breathability issues. Luckily, I was sort of able to open and close it as rain would get worse and better throughout the day. Things that didn't go so well. So I think this is just sort of, I'm just still learning. So one of the things was the campsite selection issue. Like I said, I got there, I got a little frazzled. I was worried about setting up a good LNT site, but didn't really think about everything else. And so I pitched on a slope, not a major slope, but enough that the rain was coming down through me. It's hard dirt. It doesn't get a lot of rain there. So I just think that I was in sort of a flood plain. And then also my stake came out overnight, which I had forgotten about. My stake came out overnight. And so I think that the bathtub floor of the Nemo had just like laid down, and then it just let enough water come in. So I don't think that it was a failing of the tent. I think it was a failing of mine. The other thing that I could have done better is just generally moisture control. And that's not the name of a Janet Jackson cover band, but just in general, again, I just don't have a lot of experience hiking in the rain. I think though I knew this rain was coming, I don't think I knew how much was coming. And to be fair, the forecast kept getting worse, including the morning of my hike when I'm already on the island. So there's only so much you can do, but I think that that outdoor research helium 2 is a great sort of like backup, have it in your pack. But I've already sort of upgraded my rain kit, so I've got a more robust jacket for when I'm expecting rain, like really expecting a good amount of rain. I got some rain pants. We'll see. I think I'm gonna have to return those and get a smaller size, but we'll figure that out. So I've got some more materials that I think will be helpful. My nylon fume pack liner worked great, but just in general, I think the other thing that really happened was I didn't bring my camera because I knew it was going to rain, but I brought my phone. I didn't bring a waterproof case. I don't own a waterproof case. I opted for a battery pack, a battery case. I think that was a big mistake. I think I should have gotten a waterproof case because I kept it in my pouch, my Zimmer-built pouch on my backpack, but it's a sil nylon pouch. It's not waterproof. It's not water resistant. It's not water or anything. And, you know, I've got the phone in there and I'm pulling it out to shoot video and I'm putting it on a tripod and I'm walking like forever, some of those long shots. And just rain is just getting into the phone and it's water resistant. So I didn't really think about it. But, you know, it can only take so much, and water got into the USB port, and that made it unable to charge. It also ruined the audio, but more importantly, it made it unable to charge. The last thing, and this is just sort of something that's been dogging me for a while, so a lot of you don't know my story on here. I haven't really talked about it yet. About 3 years ago, I weighed 50 pounds more. And I also was a chain smoker, like 20 years, lifelong chain smoker. About 3 years ago, I did a lot of things. I quit smoking. I dropped about 50 pounds. I started running. And that's sort of where backpacking re-enters my life. But my fitness is still not up to peak. I still have a lot of weight to lose. I felt it really in the San Gorgonio hike, but in general, I just can tell my fitness level is not where I want it to be. So I think that's a big challenge for me moving forward. It definitely affected this trip. It just affects my body. It affects how I feel, how many miles I can cover, how fast I can go. It affects just literally everything, especially like the elevation gain, things of that nature, my athleticism on river crossings. On this trip, you know, the mud was crazy because you would post hole and then 20 feet later, your feet would be sliding out from under you. There were some really tense moments on this trip that didn't make it onto the tape because I was so worried about just surviving. But just increasing my fitness. That's going to be my big goal sort of in the off season, is just really getting in better shape. And I'll talk about sort of end of the year goals, like 2020 goals, in another video. So I don't want to get too much into this, but that's a huge thing for me. So that's it. As far as what didn't work, I just think, you know, moisture control, I think fitness, and I think campsite selection, just sort of working on those skills that I don't really ever have an opportunity to practice, or at least in Southern California, it's very forgiving. So I'm going to be doing a lot of that sort of over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, just practicing skills. Like I said, trying to get back into better shape, doing those sorts of things. But really, overall, I thought it was a well-planned trip. I thought my equipment did well. I thought everything held up really well. I just really think it was a good trip. Could have been better, for sure. But in general, I had a great time. Hope you guys did too on this video and on that video. And hey, you know what? Let's do this again sometime.